Thanks to CEEAMA once again. It's often said that it takes a village to rear a child. And when it comes to electrical safety, protection and convenient distribution, it also takes a village to make that happen. And who is this village? We have electrical consultants, we have contractors, we have panel builders, we have OEMs, we have a whole lot of us who need to come together to make such a progress happen. And why do we need to make this progress happen? Because as we have seen throughout the day today, electricity is a good servant, but a bad master. And in order for us to harness the potential of electricity, because we can't imagine living a life without electricity today, we need to ensure that standards are respected, compliance happens, and safety therefore comes in as a consequence. So here we are today to explore LV assemblies of IEC 61439, mainly to do with IEC 61439 1 and 2. And if you see the trend in the market over the last 5 years in India and also in the world, you'll find that the number of inquiries which have started coming in for IEC 61439 specified tenders have been increasing quite a bit. If you see the cities, earlier it was only in the major cities. Today even 2-tier cities we have IEC 61439 compliance sought for. And then if you look at projects, it's no longer just the oil and gas and the data centers, but even buildings and industry. People have started insisting on IEC 61439, and today with the NEC saying that may incorporate to shall incorporate, it is going to become even more a trend. And therefore please give me all your ears and let me see how I would be able to share my experience of IEC 61439 with all of you. I have introduced myself earlier, so I'll skip this slide.
Sir.
Okay, so about the certification, I'd like to say that it's a matter of pride for me that as an Indian enclosure system manufacturing company, we are by far the highest in terms of the number of IEC 61439 type tests we have done on our system, which adds up to 16 times. Not just in Indian laboratories of ERDA and CPRI, but we have also taken our panels all the way to South Korea and Dubai, and we have got it done with Asta, DECRA, so on and so forth. So the idea is that we started off with Siemens, as I mentioned in the morning session. 2013, that was our first brush with IEC 61439, which we got passed in the first shot. And then 2017 we did it with Eaton. When we did it with Eaton landed us with a 35 crore order of Kia motors. Thank you. Now, the point I'd like to mention is that the previous year, entire year, we had done 36 crores turnover. And I had to execute this 35 crores in just a matter of 5 months. When I look back, I tell you, it would not have been possible for me to do it but for the fact that we were already into modular technology. And it's an appeal to all the panel builders out here. If you're still with welded technology, please start getting used to the modular technology right away, because when you get a surge order, that's not the time you shift over. And that's the time when I also said that I have to put my heart and soul behind this, because there is a huge value addition for panel builders and customers at large, because electrical distribution has to happen faster. The inaugural session, we heard the speaker say that 2032 electrical industry is going to grow at 72 to 78%. And if that has to happen, all of us have to gear ourselves up to look at how we are going to be availing of that kind of an opportunity. Then we had Mitsubishi. Today we brand for Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi has got their IEC 61439 switchboard as Meta. They have exhibited it in Elecrama, Alasia, and so many other exhibitions. LS Electric We did it with aluminium, but the Dubai team which came over to get this type testing done, they were so impressed, they started buying MODUTEC enclosures to Dubai, and then they found it worthwhile to once again invest on MODUTEC enclosure systems for copper bus bar type testing for the world markets. In between, we got Schneider Electric done, and ABB, I'm very proud to say that whichever way you look at it, whether it is one tire ACB or two tire ACB, single front or double front, PCC or PMCC, all combinations we have got it type tested. And we also have a certificate from ABB acknowledging the fact that MODUTEC enclosures are type tested in line with IEC 61439 1 and 2 with ABB switchgear. So that's the kind of efforts we have put in, and that effort doesn't stop with just doing the certification, but we take it upon ourselves that we are on a mission to simplify panel building. And when we are on a mission to simplify panel building, we don't do it only in India, but we take it worldwide. We have participated Electrama exhibitions regularly, Alasia exhibitions. Now, thanks to CEEAMA, we have got this opportunity. The whole idea is that we all need to live in a compliant world, and that is when our children will be safe, our equipment will be safe, and this is very, very important. Now, to understand IEC 61439, we need to understand this triangle. The triangle between the end user, the specifier or the electrical consultant, and the panel builder. Now, what does the client do? He defines his need and he declares his budget to the electrical consultant. So what does the electrical consultant do? He takes that brief and then he advises the client on what are the pros and cons of a particular electrical scheme. Should it be this way? Should it be that way? And then he also highlights the importance of compliance to his client. Now, after this, what happens is that we come to the panel builder as far as the switchboards are concerned. And this is where we need to appreciate that they are compliant panel builders, and they are also panel builders with all respects who care less, in terms of safety and compliance. Now, what I mean by this, because this is very important for us to understand, because the whole idea of IEC 61439 is trust building. And in trust building, we have to be very clear about what we stand for. So when we look at differentiating the men from the boys, we understand that, you take an electrical current carrying conductor, like Mr. Kodalkar was mentioning in the morning, that when you see the copper bus bar or the aluminum bus bar, you will not be able to make out the difference with your naked eye. But there are electrolytic grade copper and aluminum bus bars, and there are commercial grade. And believe me, the difference in price is 40%. Similarly, when you have wires with good electrolytic grade copper, with good insulation, which is probably even halogen free, and you have the non-ISI wires where instead of pure electrolytic grade copper, you sometimes have an alloy mixed with it. You take lugs, for instance. Terminations are the area where you have problems in electrical distribution. And there, if you don't use the right size of lugs, or you don't use the right quality of the material which is used in the lugs, you're asking for trouble. So essentially, we find that there are two types of panel builders. One who says safety, it's everyone's responsibility, and he's having the commitment towards that, and he has the integrity to execute it. And then you have the other category of panel builders who look for short-term goals and who look for quick wins, and that is where the electrical consultant comes in, and then he ensures that he is able to differentiate between the two categories. So when IEC 61439 came after making IEC 60439 obsolete, this has been a game changer for several reasons. One, earlier we were testing only the enclosure with the busbar systems, and we weren't really looking at the major other contributor to the switchboard, which is the switchgear manufacturer. Today, 61439 insists on your looking at both the enclosure system as well as the switchgear which gets tested along with it. So no more PTTA, no more TTA, no more IS 8623. The only relevant standard today is IEC 61439 1 and 2, and each one of us will have to understand this standard well, because it's not just about, okay, there's something there which is good, compliant, etc. But we need to also know how we have to implement it. So these are the 12 tests which are there in IEC 61439, and some of them are to do with the construction of the switchboard, some of them are to do with the performance of the switchboard. Now, for a consultant to understand each and every aspect of this test and then ensure that the panel which is coming to the project where he is a consultant is compliant to all this, how does he do it? It's one thing to just say that, ye panel builder I can trust, there's no problem. But it's another thing for you to get into the nitty-gritty of it and try to understand how you're going to be doing it. So this is what we recommend from MODUTEC. This is called a declaration of compliance. This is very much prevalent in countries overseas. In Australia, IEC 61439 is mandatory. It is not it's against the law for you to supply a panel which is not compliant to IEC 61439. And therefore, they insist that each and every test you highlight how is the performance, how is the test report, what are the test report parameters and the reference design details. So this has to be insisted by consultants that a panel builder has to submit this. And along with this, you should, my recommendation, ask for the short circuit calculation, temperature rise calculation, because these are all important when you're verifying a particular standard. I mean, without these calculations, you're just taking a chance. Another very important thing, since I've been exposed to countries overseas, about 40% of our manufacturing we export. And we have a distributor in Australia as well as New Zealand. Africa, we have about 2 distributors, and so also we have one recently appointed in Dubai. Now, overseas, in the Australian, they call it the AS61439. Now, what happens is they accept device substitution up to 3150 amps, which means if a panel builder has type tested his switchboard with Schneider switchgear, for example, but the client wants ABB switchgear, in India it's not possible. The standard doesn't recognize. But if you were to have been in Australia, then Australia says, yes, no problem, bring in ABB, we'll accept it, provided these 3 conditions are fulfilled. And what are these conditions? The ABB switchgear, the watt loss has to be equal to or lesser than the Schneider switchgear. ABB switchgear, the terminal temperature rise has to be equal to or less than that of Schneider. And the size of the module which has been type tested, it should be equal to or slightly bigger than that. Now, you can imagine what kind of a convenience and ease of doing business that exists in these places. And in India, which is not as affluent a country like Australia, I think this is a change which we need to bring about in this country. And who else better to take the lead than electrical consultants? So please do think about this. Now, I'm going to rush through the 61439 standard for paucity of time, but by and large, there are this 80-20 focus which we'll all have to be putting onto the implementation. One is the short circuit, which is a very important area. It starts with checking the dielectric properties and the clearances and creepages in the panel in the busbar system. So clearance is basically like the bird flies from one live busbar to the other, what is the distance, and creepage is as the ant walks from one live busbar to the other. And what else is important for short circuit calculations is the size of the busbar, the air volume inside it, the busbar support to busbar support distance, as Mr. Kodalkar very nicely brought out in his presentation. There are so many aspects of this which need to be looked into, and it will be very important for a consultant to go for a panel board checking with a checklist which covers all these points so that nothing is missed out. this is how a panel is harnessed for the short circuit, and then the before and after the test, the panel condition is looked at. Temperature rise is the next very important type test as far as IEC 61439 is concerned. Here again, we have the bus bar size, the material, quality of the material as I mentioned, the air volume, and this is another area which is very important, to check the millivolt drop at every joint in the switchboard, because that is the place where the challenge will start from, as far as loose connection and all the heating up will start with. Bus bar sleeve and paint. So we all should appreciate the importance of black color for coating a bus bar. When you coat it with black color, then the heat is absorbed by the black cover, therefore increasing the performance of the bus bar system. So number of these things, even the bus bar runs, you have single run bus bar, 2 runs bus bar. Now don't go for 3 run bus bar, because the center bus bar will hardly carry any current. Instead you can go for interleaved bus bars. And then you can also have a bus bar arrangement where you have double tire bus bar. So all these, each one of them have got their own validation as far as the temperature carrying capability is concerned. And that is where, if the panel builder submits the temperature rise calculation, the consultant can also satisfy himself about whether all those things have been taken care of or not. What clause of the devices, the IP clause. Now, ingress protection, again, we have right from IP 4X to probably 55 in the indoor version. Now, this is again depending upon the application. If a panel is kept in an air-conditioned room, then probably IP 4X is enough. But if it is in a servant plant, then you may need to insist on IP 55. Similarly, when you go for outdoor, you may need to look at IP 66. And this is a chart which gives you the various how to arrive at the IP protection. This PowerPoint presentation is available with CEEAMA. Those of you who would like to pick it up can please pick it up. So I'm going to run through now again. There are various other tests like resistance to corrosion. It's very important for you to have a switchboard in your unit which is not going to corrode. The lifespan of a switchboard is minimum 20 years. So it needs to be performing well. Outdoor panels, you normally look at resistance to UV, thermal stability, the way it's lifted, the name plates, every aspect, mechanical impact, every aspect is covered by the standard, and that is the importance of ensuring that panel boards are manufactured by people who are compliant. So these are again various impact tests which need to be done on the panel, forms of construction. When you have everything inside one enclosure, there is like you have it in an automation panel, you can go about incoming terminals, outgoing terminals, everything is in one compartment. But when you want to go for a process plant where a possibility will be there where you will need to work on one outgoing feeder while the other outgoing feeders are live, then you'll have to go for form 4B. So these are all various aspects which will need to be looked into. Now, this is my call to electrical consultants, that number one is, of course, please specify IEC 61439. Second, very, very important, don't just go by the first page of the certificate. Please ask for the entire certificate. The more and more certificates you will be able to go through, the more and more you will be able to get in touch with the intent of the standard. That you need to know, for example, whether the temperaturized test has passed natural ventilation or whether it is passed at forced ventilation, and vis-a-vis that, what is it which is being used. One single certificate is not enough. We go through the whole thing, insist on the declaration of compliance. Modular switchboards is important for us to move to because you get predictable quality, basically, a lot of flexibility involved. And as an assembly manufacturer, complying to IEC 61439 and helping the consultant value engineer the whole thing is also an important aspect in my humble opinion, and deliver routine verification tests are also as important as the type tests, and this gets done by every panel builder in his workshop. And for a panel builder or an OEM, again value engineering, because as I said, takes a village to rear a child. Everyone needs to involve themselves. We select truly certified assembly systems. We The OEM manufacturer responsibility doesn't end with just supplying the enclosure, but also training the panel builder in all aspects of estimation, design software, assembly, quality inspection, maintenance after the panel has gone to the site. All this is important, which will need to be looked at in terms of a partnership, in terms of a collaborative approach. And this is something which I've gone through. I just request Mr. Prashant and his son, Ruchil, for those of you who have not met him, he is also going to be there in Mumbai for you to interact with and take this relationship forward. So Mr. Prashant and Mr. Ruchil, who have put their trust in MODHUB, appreciate that and look forward to seeing how we can together simplify panel building for all of you. So with that, last final words. India and the world needs safe, reliable and convenient electrical distribution. Power demand is increasing by the day. Faster, smarter, greener switchboards are important, and we need to be aware of this trend and we need to respect this trend. To be able to trust the panel builder, compliance to standards is a must. We have to trust but continuously verify. For the consultant and the end user to be discerning here with a declaration of compliance is very critical. This kind of seminars, educational marketing is the need of the hour. And once again, hearty congratulations to CEEAMA for this initiative and the consistency with which they are reaching out to the industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Any questions?